Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and it's kind of interesting. We got something when I first logged in today, and I think this has a precursor to something that might be coming up. If you guys haven't already heard in the grapevine, we've been getting messages from a raven. And I thought that would be kind of super interesting for you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the first message, and we're going to read the second message and see if there's anything we can do to kind of come up with some answers. So let's get started. All right. So raid mail. Message born by a raven. Fae Father greets you. It is a dire plight that moves me in this hour. Loki, once a dear friend of Asgard, seeks to upend the very foundations of the world. He weaves enchanting lies, promising unbound freedom, and his arrogance could be the death of all. We must end this chaos at any cost. Before it is too late, seek me out and face my trial, for only the strongest will be able to thwart the deceiver, and they will need mighty war gear to do so. Loki and Asgard. All right, so I kind of talked about this before a little bit, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of elements in this game that already kind of lean towards what I would say is like Norse mythology in a sense. And for those of you guys that are big Marvel fans like I am, you know, like the Marvel comic books, it's also that case. I don't think it's going to be like in sync with that IP and whatnot, so I'm not going to go there and just preface that and just like say that right off the rip. But they might have more of a closer tie towards like the Norse mythology gods. So like Loki, the god of mischief, and so on and so forth. You hear them, they kind of say like Fae Father greets you, which is kind of interesting because normally when they're talking about someone like Odin, it's like Forefather or the All-Seer or something like that, I think, in terms of like names. But anyways, let's see what the next message says. Fae Father greets you. It is a dire plight that moves me this hour. Loki, once a dear friend of Asgard, seeks to upend the foundations of the world. He weaves enchanting lies, promising unbound freedom. And his arrogance could be the death of all. We must end this chaos at any cost. Act before it is too late. Seek me out and face my trial, for only the strongest will be able to thwart the deceiver, and they will need mighty war gear to do so. You cannot fail. Teleria itself is at stake. So that's interesting that they added. Oh no, it's roughly about the same message. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna kind of get in preface and say this for you guys, because I feel like there is some additional things that might be worth looking into and whatnot. So I am just gonna go ahead and show you guys this right off the rip. Norse mythology, right? There's a lot of champions right now that have like a lot of loose ties towards it, and I'm gonna give the barbarian specifically the nod towards it. If you look at a lot of the champions and the way that they're designed, a lot of it screams like it's a mixture between being barbaric, obviously since they're a barbarian faction, but also a little bit on the Norse mythology side. So like wandering travelers, wandering conquerors, maybe a little bit Viking-esque a little bit in a sense, and you'll see that quite a bit. Like for example, Thor or Jarl, excuse me, kind of seems very, very reminiscent, although his skills are very, very like freeze-based or ice-based. Like he has like an axe that has like a little bit of lightning going on. You can see like there's thunder behind him and whatnot. And it doesn't really kind of scream to him directly, but if you really look at like his design and aesthetic, a lot of the barbarian champions kind of lean in towards that that aesthetic in a sense, right? So I feel like in this particular case, we might be seeing a new legendary mythical champion that might be closely tied towards like a Norse mythology champion like Loki or maybe even Thor, since those are the two that were mentioned. I'll give a special nod here. When you actually change the Alazis, the Sun Bear, you actually kind of see a little bit of like his design, and it kind of screams, and like you kind of see like what I would say is like I don't know exactly what those call, like Nordic symbols or just like hieroglyphs, or some kind of like, you know, text that they have, and it kind of looks like it's like runes. Thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. Like it has like a lot of runic themes to it, and to be honest with you, a lot of the champions do have it, so I'm very, very, very curious about it. They did show us, so we did get some screenshots about some images that I'm going to show with you guys here, that I think may be very, very interesting in lines with this one. So they got a shield here. It looks like it's kind of blurry. It looks like a little bit like a sun ray. You see a little bit of like rainbows and whatnot. Let me go ahead and full impose this one so you guys can see it better. You know, but you see the shield. What shield like that would be very, very reminiscent with a sword? I don't know exactly per se, but you can kind of see like the twin serpent's head looking like it's devouring each other or something along those lines. I don't know. It just screams like it's very, very Norse mythology based, which is very similar to what we see with the barbarian tribe. So we might be seeing something new around there. I'm not entirely sure. Then we got another little bit of like what looks to be like around some snow. Remember, we were just looking at, for example, Yakarl, who he's like one of the only ones, I think, that has that kind of symbolism. And I was thinking about it too. It's like, I wonder who has shield that might be like relevant in this particular faction. And that's kind of where I was like kind of going. It was like sword and shields. Like maybe that has something to do with Valkyrie. You know, which is actually not too uncommon when it comes to the lore. You know, Valkyries and Valhalla, they lead them to Valhalla, or they're basically like a special entity that exists inside the, you know, the Norse mythology, for lack of better words. I thought that it could be the case. The shield and the sword look a little bit different in comparison to the game, so I thought that was like, okay, maybe it's not so much that. Let's check this one out. When I saw this, that's when I immediately was like, yo, that looks like Torvald's weapon, or Jotun's weapon. And if you really pay close detail to it, like it's a long, big, thick blade, like a great blade, and then you kind of see at the bottom of it, there's at the hilt. It's not exactly the same as Torvald, so I was like, well, maybe it's not Torvald. And then I went down and I looked at, I believe it was Jotun, who has something very, very comparable, and it's also not the case. So like, it's a different type of sword altogether, but nevertheless very, very comparable because it looks very reminiscent of it. So that's kind of like the direction we're going in. And then this screams like a Viking ship, a Viking boat that they used to travel when they were trying to conquer a lot of the lands. And I was very, very like looking into this, and I was like curious. Like, man, it kind of seems like we're going into a very heavy like Viking theme. And then I got to this, and I was like, wait a minute, who has spears and what is that looks like right there? Like I've been flabbergasted at all the different images that they have available for us, and I tried to zoom in to see if there's like any specific text, but couldn't see anything there. I will say that there's like 3 spears, and they have like a red or like, it looks like it's like a dirty red like tie or a ribbon tied to it, to almost 2 of the 3 of the spears, and I thought that was kind of interesting. One of the spears doesn't have the same type of end piece, like the tip piece right there. These 2 do, but that one doesn't. I'm not sure if there's like any of these have like any significant relevance, and I was like, well, maybe there's something else. And then we get to our final picture, and I start seeing a helmet, and then it goes to shield again, and then it looks like maybe the bottom piece to what we were looking at earlier is like the grave, or like a tomb, or some kind of like basically like post or pillar where they had like written text and whatnot on it. And that's kind of like what I got out of it. It's like we got to see a little bit of each piece of this area. So if you take a look at it, this is the bottom of what looks like something similar to that pillar we were just looking at. This is the ground. Maybe this is a part of the shield too as well. Is this a similar shield texture as Valkyrie? The answer is no. Okay, let's see here. And then we started getting to this, and that's the top and bottom piece of this area, and I see like the helmet. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm curious, because here's what I think what this means. Obviously there's something new coming around the terrain, and it sounds like we're gonna have something crazy happen. I know there was conversations and talks about a new mode coming out, or a new dungeon coming out that may be applicable to this. They did kind of tease around like Loki being mischievous as ever, and I find that it's very interesting, considering that we already have what seems to be like Norse mythology or Norse-like champions. In a sense, they're not exactly the case, but they are very close, or very comparable. Could it be the new faction? That was my first question. And I feel like I personally would want to lean no, because the barbarians are already fairly close to that. But we can't rule out the possibility that that could be the case. Could it be a new champion inside the said faction itself? Possibly. And I would be more inclined to think that that might be the case. I feel like maybe depending on if the new mode has some kind of semblance around it, that could be the new introduction to what's going to be the boss that we're going to have to go against. Maybe it's not even a champion for us to have, or a new faction for us to have. It's more so a new piece of content that we're going to have to get involved in, which could be very interesting. And then, in particular, with all those images, like, what are they leading up to? That could be a grave, that could be a tomb that we were looking at with the like a fallen soldier that passed away, and may have that might be a grave site. That could be a entrance portal. That could be a lot of things. I mean, we live in a fantasy world when it comes to the world of Teleria, right? So there's a possibility for everything, But I am left to my speculatory devices in this one, and I'm curious to think what do you guys think? I feel like it is very, very possible that we may be seeing something big coming into Teleria pretty soon. And it's been a little quiet after this fusion that we just recently had too. So, anyways, let me know what you guys think. Are we gonna have a new champion, a new faction, maybe a new content mode that's gonna be interesting for us? I am all ears. And with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always remember, stay ascended.